Alright, hey YouTube, this is my follow-up video to my Kershaw 3.5-inch EDC video that I made about a month ago. So I've taken the opportunity to carry these now and get some general notes and review comments about these three knives. These are the Galleon designed Rake, Lahar, and Junkyard Dog 2. These two are made in the USA. This one is Japanese made. These both feature composite blades with 14C28N as the carrier and CPM-D2 as the cutting edge steel. The Lahar, Japanese made, features VG10 steel. First off, what I'd like to say is for most people these style knives are probably a little overkill for everyday carry, but that's okay with me. I've been a knife aficionado for several years now, and I really love all styles of knives. I think probably most people would classify these as tactical. And in saying that, they do have some features that kind of throw them into that category. The G10 scales, of course, the size of the blades, the types of grinds that are on the blades, as well as the weight. They are a little heavier than most people's pocket knives. But for me, that's never been a problem. Weight usually, unless you're getting way up into 8, 9, 10 ounces, it's really not going to bother me too much. It's noticeable, but it doesn't hinder me. Alright, so let's talk about the Kershaw Junkyard Dog 2. First off, this is the biggest of the three knives with a approximately 3 3/4 inch blade. It's got an interesting look. It kind of reminds me of like a killer whale, actually, with the shape it has. Very interesting grip styling and finger groove here. Probably the biggest hit I have on this thing is this hideous pocket clip, and while I do know that it is very genuine to the custom by Tim Galleon, this clip is just, it's awful. So I would have preferred something a little more conservative. This flared end here doesn't really bother me, but this whole like flame looking thing just isn't doing it for me. So overall, it had some better ergonomics than I was expecting, but not in the way that I expected. When I open this knife, I always want to grip it like this. That's where I feel most comfortable with it, but it really, this thin spine here, because of the top's wedge, it doesn't really feel that good. It looks good, actually, and you can certainly hold it, and even in this hammer grip, and this was probably the worst one when I was actually cutting material. What I found was that this hump right here actually would push into my palm, and it would actually cause quite a bit of pain when I was cutting through some of the thicker cardboard. Believe it or not, the best way to hold this is in a fencing grip, just like that. And that seemed to do the best, and that alleviated any kind of pressure from this hump, and it fits quite nicely into your thumb and the palm right there in just that fencing style grip. I had no problem with edge retention or chipping or anything like that. I did initially when I first sharpened it, but maybe it was just weakened steel from the initial sharpening and taking out the temper. I don't have a problem with it now. This also has the newer style of the composite blade with the sort of fin looking style, forward fin or saw teeth looking style, rather than the little circles that some of them have. So the jimping worked really well for me too. There's a little bit of jimping right along the top here. There's a little on the flipper as well. It flips out really nice, as you can see. So it comes right out. No problems with that. Just give it enough pressure. I did like the thick liners as well that this one has. which obviously also contributes to the weight. Overall, pretty nice, and I do like the larger size of this knife. I just wish it lended itself to more grips, because really for me, this is the best grip, the fencing grip, and it doesn't really feel that secure to me. It works fine. It's more of my own personal preferences, and probably a problem that I always seem to have with the Kershaws is they all feel very short in the handle to me. They may have great blade to handle ratios, but I want to be able to actually hold on to my knife and not worry about my pinky not being able to get a good purchase. So that's just a style design of Kershaw that for me doesn't always work. Okay, so now let's move on to the Kershaw Rake. This is the only speed safe of the three. The other two are manuals. You've probably seen We All Juggle Knives has a review of the Kershaw Rake 2, and he talks about the speed assist being a little slow, and hopefully you can see that. It is a little slow. This is a fairly heavy knife for its size, but it's got a really wide chord blade, so I mean that attributes to some of the mass that the spring has to move. It's not really that bad. It does open up, and if you hit that flipper with a good amount of force right there, it does help this blade to eject from the handle much easier and with much more speed. I really like this model in particular. When I choke up into a Filipino grip, I don't have a problem really too bad with the handle size, although it can feel a little small if you're in other grips. But in this grip right here, it works very well. It's very natural for that. I can even grab at the other side of that guard if I'm careful to keep some backward pressure, allow me to get into that very fine area right there if I really want to. But for the most part, just like that. If I do start to come back, then that's when I start to feel a little cramped in the back, but not too bad. Really nice. Now, the other interesting thing is of the three knives, this is the only one that actually features a stop pin, which you'll see right there. I'll show better on the Lahar, the design feature that actually exists on all three of these knives, where they've created a shelf on the tang which kind of acts as a blade stop. This belly is just awesome. I love how it's a continuous arcing curve on this particular one. It works really well. This was actually probably the best slicer of all three. It worked equally well on foods, things like apples. I even cut up some root vegetables like potatoes and carrots, and then I also used it on cardboard. This one sliced the best out of cardboard. And that was something that I actually found interesting out of these three Kershaw knives. They weren't very good at actually like pure slicing, and in particular the cardboard. It took a lot of force to get these knives through, and I was actually kind of surprised by that, a little curious. I've never really done a lot of testing on my knives anyway. I collect them, and I like the looks of them, and I don't really have any hard use tasks. Nothing where I'm really, beating the snot out of my knives. I baby them more than anything. So, as I was using it, I was actually kind of surprised at how much force it was taking for these knives. And I actually pulled out a couple of Spydercos, a Mannix 2 and a Paramilitary 2, to kind of figure out what was going on and if it was something similar in those. I have quite a large collection of Spyderco knives, so I'm very used to the design features and the performance of those knives. And I definitely found out that the Mannix 2 and the Paramilitary 2 were slicing much better than any of these three. So what I did is, I pulled out a cheap micrometer that I have, and I kind of checked for the edge right behind the bevel. And what I was finding was that roughly the Kershaw blades are twice as thick behind the edge as the Spydercos were. So that was obviously what was causing all of that drag. Not only is it a V edge, but it was much thicker at that V edge. And I went ahead and I've resharpened all of these at 30 degrees inclusive, and that's another personal thing for me. I mostly use a sharp maker for my edge maintenance, so pretty much if I'm going to use a knife, I put the 30-degree edge. I don't even mess around with the 40 degrees. I don't really do micro bevels or anything like that. I just throw it on 30 degrees and move out. So this one was very nice for me. It feels great in the Filipino grip. It was more comfortable than the Junkyard Dog 2. It did slice up the thicker materials better, and I just really love the great blade shape.